Promulgation of Universal Peace by Abdul Baha Abbas, the 5th of December, the 4th of December, 1912. Talk to the Theosophical Society, 2228, Broadway, New York. Notes by Esther Foster. Those who were uninformed of the world of reality, who did not comprehend existing things, or without perception of the inner truth of creation, who did not penetrate the real mysteries of the material and spiritual phenomena, and who possess only a superficial idea of universal life and being, are but embodiments of pure ignorance. They believe only in that which they have heard from their fathers or ancestors. Of themselves, they have no hearing, no sight, no reason, no intellect. They rely solely upon tradition. Such persons imagine that the domain of God is an accidental dominion, our kingdom. And people in my country like to call themselves liberals, but I'm going to be real right here. They tend to be even more conservatives than the people they call conservatives, because they're just following another group of, these are liberal values. No, liberal and conservative is how you believe or act or whatever, not in what area. For instance, they believe that this world of existence was created 6,000 or 7,000 years ago, as if God did not reign before that time and had no creation before that period. They think that divinity is accidental. For them, divinity is dependent upon existing things, whereas in reality, as long as there has been a God, there has been a creation. As long as there's been light, there has been recipients of that light. For light cannot become manifest unless those things which perceive and appreciate it exist. The world of divinity presupposes creation, presupposes recipients of bounty, presupposes the existence of worlds. No divinity can be conceived as separate from creation, for otherwise it would be like imagining an empire without a people. A king must needs have a kingdom, must needs have an army and subjects. Is it possible to be a king and have no country, no army, no subjects? This is an absurdity. If we say that there was a time when there was no country, no army, and no subjects, how then could there have been a king and a ruler? For these things are essential to a king. Now, if we say that something is co-eternal with God, aren't we saying that that's a co-divinity and that there is no creation? Consequently, just as the reality of divinity never had a beginning, that is, God has ever been a creator, well, you can't have both. God ever being a creator and this universe having a beginning is not, God has ever been a provider, God has ever been a quickener, God has ever been a bestower. So there has never been a time when the attributes of God have not had expression. Well, the essence of God that we know through these attributes, The sun is the sun because of its rays, because of its heat. We are to conceive of a time when there was a sun without heat and light. It would imply that there had been no sun at all, and that it became the sun afterward. So, likewise, if we say that there was a time, well, most people will admit how silly it is, the idea that the sun has always been there. So likewise, if we say that there was a time when God had no creation or created beings, a time when there were no recipients of his bounties, and that his names and attributes had not been manifested, this would be equivalent to a complete denial of divinity. For it would mean that divinity is accidental. To explain it still more clearly, If we think that 50,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago there was no creation, that there were then no worlds, no human beings, no animals, this thought of ours would mean that previous to that period there was no divinity. If we should say that there was a time when there was a king, but there were no subjects, no army, no country for him to rule over, it would be really asserting that there was a time when no king existed and that the king is accidental. It is therefore evident that inasmuch as the reality of divinity is without beginning, creation is also without a beginning. This is as clear as the sun. When we contemplate, no, we've already reasoned out why. Well, I mean, there's other reasons to go into, but when we contemplate this vast machinery of omnipresent power, perceive this illimitable space and its innumerable worlds, it will become evident to us that the lifetime of this infinite creation is more than 6,000 years. Nay, it is very, very ancient. Notwithstanding this, we read in Genesis, in the Old Testament, that the lifetime of creation is but 6,000 years. Well, less than that, but yeah. 5,600 at this point or something. This has an inner meaning and significance. It is not to be taken literally. For instance, it is said in the Old Testament that certain things were created in the first day. The narrative shows that at that time the sun was not yet created. How could we conceive of a day if no sun existed in the heavens? For a day depends upon light of the sun and, of course, a alternation between that and not. For the day depends upon the light of the sun. Inasmuch as the sun had not been made, how could the first day be realized? Therefore, these statements have significances other than literal. No, people believe them literally. So, to be brief, our purpose is to show that divine sovereignty, the kingdom of God, is an ancient sovereignty, and that it is not accidental sovereignty, just as a kingdom presupposes the existence of subjects, of an army, of a country, for otherwise the state of dominion, authority, and kingdom cannot be conceived of. Therefore, if she imagined that the creation is accidental, we would be forced to admit that the Creator is accidental, whereas the divine bounty is ever flowing, and the rays of the Sun of Truth are constantly shining. No cessation is possible to the divine bounty, just as no cessation is possible to the rays of the sun. Therefore, this is clear and obvious. Thus, there have been many holy manifestations of God. 1,000 years ago, 200,000 years ago, 1 million years ago, the bounty of God was flowing. The radiance of God was shining. The dominion of God was existing. Why do these holy manifestations of God appear? What is the wisdom and purpose of their coming? They're referring to the sent ones. Kind of sounds odd, and would imply things that maybe it doesn't, because they're not claiming that there's divine incarnation going on here. What is the outcome of their mission? It is evident that human personality appears in two aspects: the image or likeness of God and the aspect of Satan. The human reality stands between these two, the divine and the satanic. It is manifest that beyond this material body, man is endowed with another reality, which is the word of exemplars constituting the heavenly body of man. In speaking, man says, I saw, I spoke, I went. Who is this I? It is obvious that this I is different from this body. It is clear that when man is thinking, it is as though he were consulting with some other person. With whom is he consulting? It is evident that it is another reality, or one aside from this body, with whom he enters into consultation. When he thinks, shall I do this work or not? What will be the result of my doing this? Or when he questions the other reality, what is the objection to this work if I do it? And then That reality in man communicates its opinion to him concerning the point at issue. Therefore, that reality in man is clearly and obviously other than his body, an ego with which man enters into consultation and whose opinion man seeks. Often a man makes up his mind positively about a matter. For instance, he determines to undertake a journey, then he thinks it over. That is, he consults his inner reality and finally concludes that he will give up his journey. What has happened? Why did he abandon his original purpose? It is evident that he has consulted his inner reality, which expresses to him the disadvantages of such a journey. Therefore, he defers to that reality and changes his original intention. Furthermore, man sees in the world of dreams. He travels in the east, he travels in the west. Although his body is stationary, his body is here. Is that it is that reality in him which makes the journey while the body sleeps. There is no doubt that a reality exists other than the outward physical reality. Again, for instance, a person is dead, is buried in the ground. Afterward, you see him in the world of dreams and speak with him, although his body is interred in the earth. Who is the person you see in your dreams, talk to, and who also speaks with you? This again proves that there is another reality, different from the physical one, which dies and is buried. Thus, it is certain that in man there is a reality which is not the physical body. Sometimes the body becomes weak, but that other reality is in its own normal state. That body goes to sleep, becomes as one dead, but reality is moving about, comprehending things, expressing them, and is even conscious of itself. This other inner reality is called the heavenly body, the ethereal form, which corresponds to this body. This is the conscious reality which discovers the inner meaning of things, for the outer body of man does not discover anything. The inner ethereal reality grasps the mysteries of existence, while the sensual body does have its own understanding, as discovers their scientific truths and indicates their technical applications. It discovers electricity, produces the telegraph, the telephone, and opens the door to the world of arts. If the outer material body did this, the animal would likewise be able to make scientific and wonderful discoveries. For the animal shares with man all physical powers and limitations. What then is the power which penetrates the realities of existence and which is not to be found in the animal? It is the inner reality which comprehends things, throws light upon mysteries of life and being, discovers the heavenly kingdom, unseals the mysteries of God, and differentiates man from the brute. Of this there can be no doubt. As we have before indicated, the human reality stands between the higher and the lower in man, between the world of the animal and the world of divinity. When the animal proclivity in the man becomes predominant, he sinks even lower than the brute. When the heavenly powers are triumphant in his nature, he becomes the noblest and most superior being in the world of creation. All the imperfections found in the animal are found in man. And then there is antagonism, hatred, and selfish struggle for existence. In his nature lurk jealousy, revenge, ferocity, cunning, hypocrisy, greed, injustice, and tyranny. So to speak, the reality of man is clad in the outer garment of the animal, the habiliments of the world of nature, the world of darkness, imperfections, and unlimited baseness. On the other hand, we find in him justice, sincerity, faithfulness, knowledge, wisdom, illumination, mercy, and piety, coupled with intellect, comprehension, the power to grasp the realities of things, and the ability to penetrate the truths of existence. All these great perfections are to be found in man. Therefore, we say that man is a reality which stands between light and darkness. From this standpoint, his nature is threefold: animal, human, and divine. The animal nature is darkness, the heavenly is light and light. The holy manifestations of God come into this world to dispel the darkness of the animal or physical nature of man, to purify him from his imperfections in order that his heavenly and spiritual nature may become quickened, his divine qualities awakened, his perfections visible, his potential powers revealed, and all the virtues of the world of humanity latent within him may come to life. These holy manifestations of God are the educators and trainers of the world of existence. the teachers of the world of humanity. They liberate man from the darkness of the world of nature, deliver him from despair, error, ignorance, imperfections, and all evil qualities. Well, evil is a choice, it's not part of nature. They clothe him in the garment of perfections and exalted virtues. Men are ignorant, the manifestations of God make them wise. They are animalistic, the manifestations make them human. They are savage and cruel, the manifestations lead them into the kingdoms of light and love. They are unjust, the manifestations cause them to become just. Man is selfish. They sever him from self and desire. Man is haughty. They make him meek, humble, and friendly. Man, he is earthly.